I love doggos so much, and I have a feeling that you do as well. That's why I'm very excited to partner up with Embark. They are a dog DNA testing kit, and they are amazing. I've done it on both of my pups. Top shelf. Love what they do. So go to embarkvet.com, and this will get you free shipping and save $60 with this promo code RAY, R-A-Y. So visit embarkvet.com to get free shipping and save $60 with the promo code RAY. Test your doggos, find out so much about them.
Tired of long waits and rushed care at the ER and urgent care clinic? Next time, stay home and let Dispatch Health bring the power of the hospital to you.
I call Dispatch Health. A care team of medical professionals actually come to your house.
They're the same caliber of people that you would see if you were at a hospital or an urgent care.
Dispatch Health can treat most non-life-threatening emergencies.
They can do the x-rays, they can do stitches,
urinary tract infections, blood test, urinalysis, ultrasound.
It's almost everything that they can do at the ER.
You never feel rushed. They're there for you and only you.
I felt like their only patient.
And it costs no more than a trip to urgent care because Dispatch Health is covered by most insurance, including Medicare. See if we serve your home at dispatchhealth.com.
Dispatch Health really went above and beyond.
It's wonderful to have care come to your home.
House calls are back, and they're better than ever. Learn more at dispatchhealth.com.
You're listening to 100 Words or Less with Ray Harkins. Today is a good day, and that is because we have Kevin Seconds on this particular podcast, which I am thrilled to say because 7 Seconds, huge band for me. Huge band I know for many, many people because they were on the ground floor, you know, as far as like the early 80s, you know, hardcore scene is concerned. They were definitely the band that was doing it, you know, like just off the heels of Minor Threat and everything else that was happening in the 80s. 7 Seconds were huge, and they did what they did in their own weird corner of the world, which was Reno, Nevada. I mean, like, it's just, you'll hear Kevin articulate and speak why he was living in Reno and like how interesting that whole scene was. But there are so many things about this band where, you know, realistically, we shouldn't be talking about these guys anymore, but because they left such a long-lasting legacy. And let's talk about the crew. The reason that we're having Kevin on this show is because Trust Records, a great record label that is documenting some amazing records and re-releasing them, making sure that they are available to everybody that cares about them. Trust Records re-released The Crew. That is out on, it's like gatefold vinyl. It's out on every streaming provider around because that record was just not available. You would not be able to find it. And that's a crime. Like, you want people to be able to listen to what others would define as, you know, a really important record in a band's catalog. Of course, you could find tons of other 7 Seconds out there, which is great, but The Crew and Trust Records, they have brought this to life. And so Kevin came on this podcast, and so exciting. But another exciting thing, first of all, email the show. You can always email the show at 100wordspodcast@gmail.com. I love to hear from you, guest ideas, whatever the case may be. We're approaching 8 years of this podcast, which is incredible to say. And I have to thank you for it. You know, you guys, you, the listener, I'm pointing to you and you and you, have definitely changed my life in a positive way for me to be able to continue to do this show and support it in so many ways. Like, it is not lost on me because it's really important for me to continue to do this, not because this is like a money-making endeavor, but because I find this music scene and this whole DIY punk and hardcore scene to be incredibly important to me and foundational, and I want to be able to instill that in others and give them more stories about people that are involved with this. So anyways, let me get off my soapbox, but let me get right back on because I want to talk to you. I watched this film called Summer of Soul. It comes out, I want to say, in a week or so, but I mean, regardless, when you're listening to it, Google it, find it, immediately watch it. It is an incredible documentary done by, I think the producer on it, Questlove. This is a music event I was never aware of. And, I by no stretch of the imagination am some like musical historian nerd. If you want to talk to me about, mid-90s metalcore, I'll go pretty deep with you. But, I know enough to be dangerous. But the Harlem Soul Festival, Music Festival, I can't remember the exact title of it, but this happened at the same time as Woodstock. And we're talking about tens of thousands of people that flocked to this free concert in a park in Harlem in New York City in 1969. And this whole documentary shows unearthed footage, stuff that people have never seen, from like Stevie Wonder, the Mavis Staples and her dad, and just so many incredible, Sly and the Family Stone. There were so many things that just blew my mind. It was like, honestly, every 10 to 15 minutes, I sat back as I was watching the documentary and I was like, dude, are you kidding me? Like, I can't believe we are watching this. I can't believe I am watching this. And it was really great too, because it was also setting it in a historical context while sharing amazing music with you. It was also sharing the social relevance behind what made this thing so special and why maybe people aren't talking about it anymore. And so this documentary is crucial viewing as far as I'm concerned. So everybody should go out and pursue to watch that documentary in whatever way, shape, or form you can. So again, the movie is called Summer of Soul, and it's an incredible documentary. It's about 2 hours long, totally engaging the entire time. So watch it, okay? Anyways, let's dive into Kevin Seconds, okay? Great dude, great conversation, and we go places. So it was really fun. Here we are with Kevin Seconds. I'm sure that this story, is not unique, but I'm sure it just makes you laugh because, I'm 40 years old. My first band, aptly named Doom Society, which of course you can probably close your eyes and hear the terrible punk music coming out. But we covered Young Till I Die, which what's funny is because I got into that via, and I'm sure you've heard this before, there's a hardcore band called Battery, that covered Young Till I Die. And so I, sort of reversed engineered it where like, oh, I like this Battery cover of the 7 Second song. And then, yeah. And so I'm sure it feels interesting for you to kind of hear the generational influence where it's like, I had a general awareness of who 7 Seconds was, but it wasn't until, another band sort of held my hand to be like, oh no, like you need to get into these guys. Right. Is that, where does that sit in your head? Is it just like wild, the fact that, you could still be existing in the, punk rock hardcore ecosystem where it's like, oh yeah, people, the name still resonates, or, how does it kind of sit in your head? I realize that's a big question, but.
Yeah, well, no, it's a good question. It's funny because at a fairly early stage in our little history, I always talk about how the term legendary is always sort of overused from, like I almost hate the term, but I remember we'd been playing for like 5 years and I kept seeing flyers, a legendary 7 Seconds. I'm like, wow, we're already legendary. What does this mean? Like we're almost over, but I realized early on that there was like a whole new, especially with the sort of the 1988 Youth Crew stuff, that kind of got younger kids interested in us because of the bands that were kind of from part of that scene, and those bands sort of grew up listening to us. And so even though I thought we were relevant, we were touring all the time, making records, it was, only maybe 7-8 years after we had started that people were always going, oh yeah, you guys are like the godfathers of it. I'm like, well, we're not that old. I mean, we're older than the, so, I don't know. I think it's great. I feel like if and maybe I'm not even answering your question, but I think if younger bands come up and are showing a sort of appreciation for some of the bands that they loved and grew up with, and it exposes that band's music to a younger crowd or younger generation, I think it's great. And we certainly have benefited from that. And I got no complaints with it. I think it's pretty cool. It is wild because, again, we really, up until we, just before we broke up, we we really were still staying busy, and we were trying to be as active as possible. That active as a bunch of 50-year-old guys could be, I guess. But it's all been great, and I can't complain about a single thing. We've just gotten so much support and love over the years. I'm just eternally grateful, no matter what.
Right. Well, it is funny. I mean, I'm glad you brought up the notion of not being put out to pasture, but just the idea that like we've been a band for 5 years and we're considered legendary. Like,
right.
That is a weird, I don't care what age you are, like being called legendary, like that's just kind of weird,
It just automatically, I mean, people do it in a compliment. They do it in a it's all loving and a wonderful, they think they're being respectful, but it's really kind of like, you hear legendary and it's like, well, no, like Rolling Stones are legendary, or even like maybe the Misfits are legendary, at this point. Black Flag's legendary. I feel like if you're still active and you're still, making new music and that kind of stuff, it's like, I want to, if you want to call me legendary once it's all, we're put to pasture, that's fine with me. But hey, you can call me legend. Yeah, if you want to call me legendary now, that's perfectly fine. I have no complaints about it, but it is funny when you're younger and you're getting that kind of stuff.
Right.
Heaped on your head. You're like, whoa, do we have something? Should we be dressing better? Should we try to rehearse more? I don't know. What
Right. Should we be more professional? Yeah.
Right. It's like legendary. That's a pretty big word.
Right. Totally. And especially too, where it's like, that word being applied to you, but it's just like, hey, I'm like 26. Like this really doesn't feel legendary. Like what?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I remember having a conversation like that with Ray of Today from Youth of Today, and they had really started to kind of blow up a little bit within the underground scene or whatever. And I remember him sort of communicating to me that he was really struggling with all the sort of adulation. I was like, well, it's just, I guess it's part of it, and either you have to get good at balancing, that with when you get panned and people really go after your band or after you for something you said or some music that you made. And but I think he was like 24 or something, and he was already going like, oh, I don't know, this is I don't know if I'm up for this or not,
Yeah.
So,
yeah. Well, I was going to ask, I was actually going to ask this a little bit later, but it seems apropos to bring up now, just the, that notion of your identity being tied so closely to the art that you create, and then, doing your best to, stay grounded. And of course, like that can mean so many different things, because clearly no one in the hardcore and punk scene is like, of the same level as, Madonna or whatever. Like
right.
But there still is that, notion of people watching you grow up. And, kind of like the child actor scenario where it's like, oh, geez, like, here's you bearing your soul, with your own personal art. So how, were you kind of, I guess, aware as the band, started to receive some attention, and how did you, I guess, kind of be able to battle that notion of like buying into like, oh, I'm Kevin Seconds. I mean, I know that is literally your name. You're not your God-given name, but you're
right.
But how'd you separate those two things?
I don't know. I think we were surprised the whole time. Like every single good thing that would happen, we'd all go, holy shit, that's great. Like my brother and I started this, in our bedroom that we shared at my mom's old apartment. And it was always like, we were such like little rock band dreamer guys before we got into punk. And then when punk happened, I always say that the reason I think that it was such I was so drawn to it was that when I was like following all of these big time rock, metal, hardcore, hard rock bands of the, 70s or whatever, I loved them and I was passionate about their music, but I never quite felt like I could be part of whatever they were doing, and so it was always like, you'd see, photos of Jimmy Page and Robert Plant getting off a private jet, and you're like, that's never really going to be me. And it's not even what I want, So like the punk rock thing just kind of opened the door to like, hey, this is a little more like realistic and reasonable, and the music's great, and and it was coming from younger people, so it just really made it just resonated with me, and I just sort of felt like, so this means that we're not supposed to be rock stars. This means that we're not supposed to be inaccessible and stuck up and egotistical and stuff. And so I just always try to tell myself that, even at moments where I maybe was being, I let my ego get carried away, or I got a little, hey, maybe I am something special. I got really good at keeping myself even, I guess, and even in the moments where things were looking really good and people were blowing smoke up our asses or whatever, there was always, at first I'd be like, yes, but then I'd be like, hold on a second, like there's bound to be, this is going to turn on us at some point, or this is going to, go away at some point. And yet we're still going to need to be, active and writing and playing and recording and touring and stuff. And so I just kind of followed that, I thought anytime I sensed it coming from a bandmate, I'd sort of try to politely, respectfully say, hey, you know what, let's always remember that, this is fun and that we got into this for a certain reason, and that we always want to keep that as the core of why we do what we do, and I like to think we did. I don't think we ever got too carried away with the ego stuff, hopefully.
Yeah. Well, and especially too with the era in which you came up in, like that, the notion of being a career band, like, that didn't even exist. Like
absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
Which we'll pull that thread a little bit later, but kind of, putting the focus on you as an individual. I know you were born and raised in Sacramento and then, moved to Reno when you were a teenager and stuff. Mm-hmm. Sacramento is, and you reside there currently. That's a really interesting city because it's this, weird hodgepodge of, being the capital city, but then there's also a ton of rural areas. And it's just this interesting sort of small town, big town conglomeration. Exactly. Did you find that experience, like, as you were kind of growing up being like, oh yeah, like I'm in a big town, but also not really?
Yeah, definitely. And growing up, we lived we went through the whole gamut of living sort of when my parents were together, very suburban, boring, bland. And then when they got divorced, my mom was just raising us, and it was all just shitty apartment complexes. And the good thing about that is that we were just being raised, around other, and, becoming friends with other poor kids, and of all walks of life. So that, I think had we just stayed in the suburban sort of thing, I don't think we would have been exposed to all kinds of different stuff, but we were. And that, I always think that was a good thing ultimately in the end. But yeah, Sacramento, you're right. It's this sort of, there's a very keen sense of state politics, and, every other friend works for the state and works in some government oriented office. But then if you veer just like 20 miles north or south, it's just Trump, it's very conservative, very crazy, so, and where I live, I live basically in the Midtown section, and we're really, it's a bubble. It's just this big, woke liberal, bubble, which I'm good with, but yeah, it's an interesting city. There have been a lot of great musicians coming out of the area, and it's just big enough to where it doesn't feel like, I don't ever feel like I'm kept from experiencing something I want, but it's also, I like the small town, I like I don't think I could live in a city bigger than Sacramento. I've tried, and it's just, yeah, I start to feel a little lost and weird. So.
Sure. Well, I mean, that comes with age, where, you feel your calibration and you're like, okay, this is too small. This is too big. Like, here we go. Right. This feels like the right mix.
Exactly. Yeah. Like I don't know if I would have cared either way as a kid, but as I've gotten older, I've definitely, I appreciate living in a neighborhood where there's, oh, look, we have trees, and, we live in a house that was built in 1919 or something, so it's like, you start to appreciate that kind of stuff. When I was a kid, I wouldn't have given a shit about any of that stuff, so.
Right. Yeah. That's not important. And so what was your family structure like as you were growing up? I mean, like you said, your parents got divorced. I don't know what age that happened, and I know you have a younger brother, but what was the structure like as you were coming up? My parents divorced when I was 11, so I have a vague memory of my dad. He was a good guy. He was a cop when I was born, and then he was, I think, 20 years older than my mom. So he had already been in World War II. He was a hero in the war, came home, injured, got sent back, and highly decorated. And then he decided to pursue law enforcement. And then he met my mom, who was a bit of a, college, Berkeley, graduate. She, had trained to play music, piano classically, which was always sort of regretting that she didn't follow that through. And then was kind of, caught up in the hippie culture of the 60s, counterculture of the 60s. So she was really pretty much very socially active and aware, and
when they divorced, my mom was adamant, she wanted custody of us, and we were all closer to her, so that was fine with us. And but that was the start of a single mom raising 3 young kids, her working, and us, the minute we were able to work, go right to work, and so it was rough, and it was it was harrowing at times. I mean, we grew up living in out of sort of on the welfare system, and it just like anybody else, it just you just watching my mom struggle and try to make ends meet, and was tough, but also just seeing the strength that she had to keep us all together under one roof was enormously inspiring and influential to me later on in life. I just thought, wow, and before she passed away a couple of years ago, I just constantly, because she was always sort of beating herself up, like, I could have been a better mom, I could have been this, I could have been like, you did fine. Like we're all relatively, good, wise human beings. You did really good. Don't stop beating up yourself. But yeah, it just was. I mean, not terribly, unique or anything. We just struggled, and I think when we moved to Reno, we kind of moved to Reno with the idea that we kind of have a do over, like just start everything over again. There was work supposedly, and the rent was cheaper, and we could live a little better than we were living in Sacramento at the time. And then that all kind of fell through. So, but once we kind of got upright, and once everybody started to acclimate, and I started working when I was 16, and I realized I liked working and making money more than I liked sitting in a classroom where nobody cared what I was doing or how well I did. And then punk rock happened, and that was sort of the start of everything, or the end of everything. My little brother Steve and I we just became so passionate about it, and it just consumed us. And we both already wanted to we wanted to be in band. We wanted to be musicians and get into bands, but again, like I said, we just didn't really quite know how to do that, being underage. That it wasn't like you could start a band and go play anywhere, maybe a battle of the bands here and there, but we weren't going to be playing in nightclubs, and so when punk rock came along, it really just kind of, I don't know, it just made it opened our eyes to the possibility that we found there was something that we could do, and that was all we could think about for forever.
the Great Awakening, as they call it.
yeah, absolutely. It really was.
So, I mean, it sounds like your experience with school was very much that academics were not important to you. You weren't, putting forth your best effort, were you, right, Kevin?
No, not really. And that was the other thing. My mom actually taught English, high school English for a number of years. And so she was always really trying to keep our interest in education. And I was interested in education. I wanted to do better myself. I wanted to do better, but I always felt like I just didn't have that one teacher who inspired me to you know what I mean? It was just like being babysat, and I didn't ever fit in any category. Like I'd have friends that were stoners or friends that were jocks or whatever. It seemed like everything was about finding a nice place to fit into. And for whatever reason, I just didn't learn how to appreciate. I didn't understand the value in that. I just thought, well, most of my best friends don't even go to the same school I go to. They go to another school, and I don't know. It seemed always just like such a bummer. You have to get up early, you have to sit through class, and later on in life, after I started to, live life and stuff. I've gone back and taken courses at like local community college, and I really enjoy it. I'm actually pretty decent at it, and I enjoy the environment and stuff. But boy, when I was a kid, I was just not into it.
Right.
Did not.
You couldn't find your spot
whatsoever. Yeah.
Yeah. And so I'm guessing that you weren't, attracted to sports. Were you kind of more, an indoor kid, or did you just kind of, just try a little bit of everything?
I was into sports, actually. When I was a kid, I played Little League baseball for a while. Babe Ruth, I wasn't great, but I would make the team. I tried football. I was just too skinny and too little. Pop Warner football. I ran track. I was on a cross country team for a while. It was a independent team called the Striders. It wasn't even a school team. It was just something you could join. Mm-hmm. And I really wanted to be good at it because I did have friends that were really super great at, great athletes and stuff. And I just always felt so lame, and they weren't interested in music. Like I loved music as a kid, and they were like, but they like the radio. And my mom had, an amazing record collection. So I could just pull out anything from crazy old jazz records to like David Bowie, like she'd listen to Motown, she listened to Led Zeppelin, she listened to everything. And so I was so caught up in music by the time I was like, I got into high school that I just didn't relate to anything that was going on. But I tried my hand at sports. I really wanted to be good at that. And I just didn't quite pan out.
Sure. And was it, like when you moved to Reno, Reno is an insanely weird city. Like, yeah. This is coming from a person, I was born in Vegas, and like every time I travel up to Reno, it was just like, wow. So this is like a weirder, smaller, somewhat more depressing version of Vegas, even though Vegas can argue that it's a depressing city as well. But
right.
Was that I guess tough for you to acclimate to Reno, or did you kind of just like, all right, well, this is what we have to do, so I got no choice?
It's a funny thing. I went up 2 weeks before my family moved up there. The story was, and I won't bore you with the details, but the story was that we had my mom's best friend was living up there and had a big house, and the idea was that she had like 4 bedrooms or something, and the idea was that we'd move up there, move into the house, share the rent, and then my mom would go to work, and then when I was old enough, I'd go to work, and then we'd eventually move out once we could afford it. Well, the week we got up there, we learned that my mom's friend, her plans had changed, and so we literally were homeless for about 2 weeks. We were living out of our car until we could afford. My mom got a job at McDonald's, and then we got enough money to go live out of a motel for a while, and it was crazy. The whole thing was insane. Then we're talking 76, 77, 78. Reno was really messed up. It was really just all about the gambling. There was nothing. If you were underage, there was just absolutely nothing for you to do. There was nothing to, and it was that way. I always say, and people who I grew up with in that, or the early stages of the Reno punk rock scene, we all agree that that a city like Reno is a perfect place for a flourishing punk rock scene, because same with Vegas, like it makes complete sense that young people would want a place to gather and build a community, because there's absolutely nothing there for you to do after you get out of school. The big thing for us, teenagers, and keep in mind, disco was just starting to hit. So there would be all ages events where a disco dance. And I remember my friends would go, "Hey, you want to go with us?" And I'd be like, I went one time and I'm like, I don't like the music. I don't like, everybody's dressed like weird. It's like, and I was already an awkward teenager, so it wasn't like meeting girls was really going to be it wasn't going to be, I wasn't going to have probably much luck in that department. So the other thing was everybody would just cruise up and down the main drag, South Virginia Street, on Friday and Saturday nights. And I tried that, and it was just like, this is just nowhere. This is just, we're doing nothing here. Nothing's happening, So, back then it was really, really, really terrible. And over the years, Reno's become, I think, because the emphasis was less on gaming, like the gaming industry kind of died out a little bit. So Reno had to kind of rediscover what the worth of being a city. And so now there's a great art scene up there. There's a great music scene, and it's kind of happening. Anytime I go up there to see friends or family, I really enjoy it, But yeah, as a kid, it was just, I wanted to get out of there so bad. And for 10, 11 years, I just worked and in misery, basically. And again, punk rock, really saved my life. I don't know where I would have been had I not had that outlet. I don't know if I would have had any, what other interests I would have had, It's kind of crazy to think about.
Yeah, for sure. But yeah, I can agree with you that, Reno definitely has the ability to, do what like Detroit and these other cities, that it's like, oh, if we actually invest in the community and like have more exciting things happening, like people actually come here. This is exciting.
Right.
and keep it cheap to live too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which it's not anymore. It's funny. It's like, I hear about people, I guess we're going to move to California. I'm like, you're moving to California for Reno? Like, how expensive can Reno be? But I guess it's getting pretty expensive up there. But Yeah, I mean, once I left, the whole thing was always just to try and get out of there. The best part of Reno was that when we finally started connecting with people that loved underground music, punk rock music, and there was we started to build up a little scene. Then it became really, really nice. It was like, okay, we have a tribe, so we have a community. We're not just the outcasts. It's not. We're not going to get up if we go out with this group and play a record in somebody's house or throw a show in somebody's garage or whatever. And so for a good 10 years, that was really what I focused on. I learned how to put on shows. I learned what you needed to do to put out a fanzine. My sister put out a fanzine, my little brother, everybody in my family had some, we were always doing something, either music or starting zines or, putting shows on and stuff. And so that kept me pretty occupied for the longest time. And then I sort of became this infamous figure for all the wrong reasons. It was like I remember I put on a show and it wasn't exactly legit. I didn't get the proper entertainment permits and stuff. And it was great. I mean, it was like 100 kids. I think it was like a I don't know, Deke Kreutzen show or something. And the cops came and put me in the back of the car and took me downtown. And it was like this big deal, and they really thought they'd scored. They thought they had this mastermind who was trying to poison the youth of Reno. And, they couldn't believe they like, well, what are you in this for? How much money do you make? And I'm like, I'm not making anything. I'll be lucky if I get, the $20 I put in for a flyer and the whatever the cost it was to rent the place I had. And they were like, they just couldn't believe I didn't do drugs. I didn't smoke. I didn't drink. They were like, come on, what's your deal here, buddy? And it was like, I'm sorry to disappoint you, but I'm really the most boring person. And, you don't have a hardened criminal. You just got
right. I just want to do this thing. Right.
You just have this dumb shit that's, that loves this music and is just trying to, make time here in Reno a little more appealing, I guess, and whatnot. But
yeah. No, that's funny. Especially, especially in a town like Reno, where it's like, most people are, viewed as degenerates. Where it's like, you got to be into something bad, of course.
I remember saying that. I'm like, isn't there enough? Isn't there like some kind of meth related crime that's going on right now that you guys are missing because you've got me, here trying. They were always trying to tie us into like gang, some kind of a gang thing or cult thing, and it was always like. It was so naive. Everybody was so naive about what punk rock was and what the symbols were and why we spray painted stuff. They always had this deeper meaning, and it really didn't. It was just bored kids who we were looking for any way to have fun and express ourselves, and they couldn't quite understand that. It wasn't the.
Yeah, it didn't make sense in their head.
No.
I get that. Oh boy. Band merch is important, right? It's important to you. It's important to me. It's important to this whole DIY lifestyle that we live. Lifestyle determines my death style. Anytime I say lifestyle, I'll feel like, oh man, it's some cheeseball branding thing. But it's not a cheeseball branding thing? Rockabilia.com. That is because they are the best provider of merch on the internet as far as I'm concerned. And what I want to do is give you 10% off. Use this code 100 words. It gets you 10% off. It will, make you cooler amongst your friends, because not only are you getting them the latest and greatest band merch that exists, but it's all officially licensed. The band gets paid, and plus you get 10% off. So 100 words, use that code. And Rockabilia they just know exactly what they're doing. They can ship this stuff out to you quickly, efficiently. If you have any issues whatsoever, just write them real quick. Boom, they solve that problem. It's amazing. I've ordered multiple times from them, and I continue to order from them because I believe in this company so wholeheartedly. So again, go to rockabilia.com, use that promo code 100 words, it gets you 10% off, sends them the info that you heard about it from the show. Everybody wins in this scenario. So rockabilia.com, band merch is your life. Fulfill that closet, or how about fill the closet? All right. Thanks. The holidays are descending upon us. Everyone is running around like crazy people trying to get their shopping done. Let me just solve that problem for you. No one is ever going to say no to this gift. And this gift is the Raycon wireless earbuds, headphones, or speakers. I love all of these products unequivocally. I use them every single day. And what makes them even cooler? They have 54 hours of battery life. They have a very comfortable fit. They will not fall out. I love them so much. They also have these rad holiday bundles. My personal favorite is the Audio Lover, which includes the everyday earbuds and the everyday headphones. So please, right now, go to buyraycon.com/Ray and use the code EARLYBF to get 20% off site-wide. That's 20% off of any Raycon product, which seriously never happens. Or you can save even bigger and get 30% off of Raycon's exclusive holiday bundles. That audio lover thing I was telling you about, do that. That's code EARLYBF at buyraycon.com/Ray for 20% off your Raycon purchase. Buyraycon.com/Ray and solve all of your holiday gift giving problems for your dad, your mom, your brother, sister. I don't care who, put it in their stocking. They will love you. Buyraycon.com/Ray, code EARLYBF.
And kind of, on that idea of, coming from a sort of musical household, as far as all of the different, artistic influences that were playing into, what you were getting into, I guess, who would you kind of view as your musical Sherpa, as it were, where it's like, because you were definitely, at the ground floor of the, hardcore punk rock movement, because now you look at it and it's like, well, I find it weird when people don't get exposed to it, where it's like, what do you mean you haven't heard of that? Even though it's still, But, so I guess, how were you discovering a lot of this stuff? Was it just, like kind of you and your younger brother bouncing stuff back and forth? Was there a local record store? How did you kind of come about that?
At first there was nothing. And then we heard, we were living out of a little motel in Sparks, Nevada. And my entire family was. Both my mom and I had jobs at McDonald's. And it was pretty depressing. And one night we were watching TV, and there was some kind of special on the punk invasion in England. And it was just, crazy. It might have even been black and white. I don't even remember, but it was just like crazy footage. The camera crews went in, and the Sex Pistols were playing. You could kind of see the band, but they were mostly focusing on the crowd, who were gobbing, spitting at each other, and they had chains around their necks and safety pins in their mouths. And there was something between the just the crazy loud music that was almost indecipherable, but it just had such an intense, immediate sort of like, wow, that's intense. That's like really intense. Whatever this music is they're making, and also the fact that it was just all youth based. It was all kids that were putting everything together. And in this little teeny 10-minute, 15-minute segment, it just sparked so much in me. I remember sitting there, and my family, a friend of our families was there watching it with us. And I mean, it was just like, he thought it was just like, he was like, what is this garbage? Or, he just thought it was awful. Oh, and they had the lyrics to like God Save the Queen. Like they had it superimposed, they were showing the lyrics because you couldn't understand anything. And I had no idea really why a band would be talking about the Queen, or, why she's not a human being. I just didn't understand the concept whatsoever. And so I couldn't stop thinking about it. I remember going to work, and I was like, I was asking people I worked with if they had heard anything, and they didn't know what I was talking about. Everybody was looking at me like I was like just a Martian or something. And then I was trying to find any information, and it took me months really to even get any. I think it was like there was a Rolling Stone article on the same thing, but they went into depth and they interviewed Johnny Rotten, I think, and everything about it just appealed to me. Everything appealed to me, and I think with my little brother, he was always such my best friend, but he was like my little tag-along brother. So anything that I had an interest in, he kind of immediately adopted. And then my sister was, she was really into it. I think she was the first one in the family that actually bought Never Mind the Bollocks. She was working, and I remember I was waiting for a paycheck, and I talked her into buying it when it first came out because I didn't have the money, and she did it. And I remember us going home and listening to it. My mom was at work, and we were listening to it. I remember we were listening to the song Bodies, which is just so insanely shocking. And we just kept playing it over and over again, and we were all just like, I think first we were laughing and going, listen to this. But then it was like, there's something about the intensity that just really appealed to all of us and stuff. And I remember my mom hearing it later, and she's like, what are you guys listening to? Like, she wasn't even trying to tell us we couldn't listen to it. She just didn't understand what it was about. and so, yeah, that was, I think it was this TV show. And then just kind of looking through, trying to find any kind of mention of it in rock magazines. Cream was really good. Cream magazine, Rolling Stone, they were really good. They'd had a couple of writers that would always kind of mention it a lot. Lester Bangs was talking about a lot. He was, back then I loved anything that he wrote. So it was kind of like just through the, we also were in Reno. There was no, like media wise, that we were like 5-10 years behind everybody else. So there was no way really to find that out unless you really, you sought it. You went out.
Right. You're looking for scraps at the table. You were just like anything. A lifeline.
Absolutely. Yeah. And then I remember finally the record stores would start carrying what they'd have a new wave section. So there'd be like Blondie and Talking Heads and stuff. And, I bought all of that stuff, but I was like, nah, this isn't what I'm looking for. And then finally, the funny thing is that the first Sex Pistols, when the Sex Pistols album was released in America, the record store that we were going to got a box of them, but refused to put them out on display because they were worried about, I think they were worried about a legal thing maybe. But now I think back and I'm like, well, maybe it was just a publicity stunt. Maybe they just figured if they kept it from the few people who would want those records, it would just create more of a buzz about it and stuff, which it kind of did. But, I remember begging the guy, I'm like, please, can we just buy it now? And he's like, no, we don't want to get in trouble. And we're like, well, you have the records here. Why won't you sell it to us? So yeah, it was just kind of, there was this big buzz around it that I didn't quite understand. And I just was adamant. I wasn't going to take no for an answer. And eventually we found in the back of, I think, Cream Magazine, there were ads about you could order records and tapes. And we found a guy that was selling bootleg live Sex Pistol and Clash cassettes and Buzzcocks and the Jam and all that stuff. And so we started to buy these like cassettes from this guy in New York. We just mail order it. And that really helped out because then not only could we hear the bands, the songs, but we could hear them, what they sounded like live. And it all sounded like shit. It was like, poorly recorded or whatnot. But again, that just built up the allure. That just made me love it more. And I think now reflecting on that, I've talked to 100 people that I know that grew up musicians, who said kind of the same thing. They experienced the same thing. They were just like, yeah, it called out to me.
Sure.
Like, yeah. I guess this is it,
Yeah. This is the life path. Yeah. No, for sure. You mentioned, and I know that like almost every single interview that you've done, people talk about, being alcohol and drug free still. And at this point, it clearly is like who you are rather than obviously a label you put on yourself. I mean, that is the reality. Now that people, interact with you and you've obviously, traveled through what I like to call the civilian world for many years now, how do people react to you where it's just like, wait, what do you mean you don't drink? Like, what drugs? No, you've never done them. Like, how do people, I guess, process that with you?
I don't recall it being, I don't think it really has been a thing. Because, I didn't do that stuff at an early, I did when I was young. I tried all of it. I tried drinking with all my teenage buddies and smoking pot. And I even tried, they had the cross top, they call them, they had all kinds of names for them, but it was basically speed. And I had friends I remember in high school that would take it and they would just, fly through classes. And I remember I tried it and it just made me so uneasy and I was sweating and I was like grinding my teeth. And I was just like, why would this be a good thing? Like, there's nothing fun about this at all. It's just like, so, but all of my adult life, I just never did it. And, of course we got kind of lumped into the straight edge thing because we were early on, we were a part of a scene that kind of just said no. We were, friends with Minor Threat. We played shows together and we kind of identified with them in the sense that we were all just underage, or young people who didn't sort of subscribe to whatever it was that you're supposed to subscribe to when you turn 16 or 17 or whatever. But we just kind of got lumped into that. And I never identified as straight edge. And it's funny because I'll see old interviews, I'll see like old interviews where from like 84 where I'm saying, well, we're not really straight edge. I guess you could say we're straight, but I was always trying to make that, just make that clear because I kind of early on sensed that it was going to go in a direction that I just thought was going to be too restrictive and too militant and stupid. And I was right. Everything about it just kind of turned into this nightmarish, it made for a lot of negativity in the music scene itself, the underground music scene. And, kids would get beaten up for drinking a beer or even wearing a band T-shirt that was identified for being beer drinkers, just stupid shit like that. And so I immediately just wasn't into it. But it is who I am. I just never found the need for it. I never found that much interest in it. And I've had just as much fun, and I've gotten in just as much trouble as anybody I know that's been a stoner or an alcoholic. So I just feel like and I don't judge anybody. I've grown up around alcoholism, and I've had some of my closest friends have really almost succumbed to that. So it's a serious deal, and I don't treat it lightly. I don't look down on it, and I try not to judge anybody based on but yeah, it's just one of those things I've never really thought about too much unless somebody brings it up.
Right. Exactly. No, for sure. For sure. Especially too, when it's like, it kind of, especially with the labeling of yourself. Like, I mean, I'm, 40 years old, like I mentioned, and, I label myself a straight edge, but it's like, I don't need to do that. Like, because most people I would say that to are just like, well, what is that? Who cares? Right. And the people that do know that, it's like, well, I mean, okay, cool. But like, now you're just an adult. You don't have there's nothing that's really, you could just say you're a non-drinker or sober or whatever. But I'm like, well, if I do that, then, the dumb kids that have labeled themselves straight edge will win. And I can't let that happen.
Well, yeah, no, that's a really good point. And there was a time where I think it was good to identify if you felt right. I understood why. And I think I probably I did lean into that a little bit. And I know my brother Steve did too, but it's just, because it's kind of like it needed to sort of like what the idea was so unpopular in the beginning at the time that Minor Threat sort of made it a thing, that it gave a lot of people around not even the country, around the world, just sort of this like, it was nice to have something to rally around that wasn't like promoting stupid like decadence and just being out of your fucking head all the time. And I also, because I was putting on so many shows when I was younger, I knew what it took to just get a hall, somebody that owned a hall or a club to let me come in and book a show. The work that it would take to just to convince them, let alone the money that I'd have to scrape up and finding a PA system. And we didn't do security or any of that stuff, but it was just kind of like, there would always be the one kid that would come there who had been drinking out in the parking lot, and they would just come in and wreak havoc and start shit. And I just was like, there was just zero tolerance in my mind. Like probably the last few times in my life I've been physically violent was in that situation where I was just like, you're not going to destroy what so many of us want and are working hard to keep going. And if I have to beat the shit out of you, and maybe you'll beat the shit out of me, but it's going to happen, And I was really, really adamant about it. And I think that's why in Reno, at least, there was this sense that, the guys in 7 seconds are like straight edge Nazi guy, and it was never the case. It was just like, we have this thing that we all want, and you want to be here. And it's like, why are you fucking breaking the mirror in the women's bathroom? Like, why are you doing this dumb shit that, go home and do that stuff, don't do it here. So yeah, so in my own young mind, I would attribute that to just being somebody that was out of their minds, drunk. And then, it was easy to just go, see why I hate this shit.
Right.
But again, as I've grown up and I've gotten to have a better understanding of it, I do have empathy for anybody that has a problem with any of that stuff, and I feel like to just be straight edge and just say, well, fuck them, they're weak or whatever, I never related to that mentality. I just never thought that was, it just didn't make sense to me.
Sure. Well, and plus, considering the broad tent that you have built the band around and in, like, you want to be as welcoming to as many people as possible. And like, clearly when you're drawing that dividing line in some aspect, like that,
right.
That's the antithesis of what 7 seconds is about. So like, yeah. And kind of on that same tip where, when the band started and like you started to, tour and kind of get out there because, a lot of these, paths that you were traveling on, had not really been toured before. Like, yes, you were, falling down the road of, whether it's Minor Threat or Black Flag or anything like that. But, how, like, did you enjoy touring initially, or was it one of those things where it's like, holy moly, like, this is not what I like bargained for or anything like that?
And not only did I enjoy it, I still enjoy it. Like I still really love, I mean, it's harder now, I got to admit, because the last few tours I've done have been as a solo guy, and I'm just me and my van driving around the country, alone, and, sleeping in and out of the van. But there is a part of it that just, I think maybe because my family, we moved around so much when we were kids, there was always this, as much as I hated moving and I hated changing school districts and all that stuff, it was kind of fun and liberating. It was I don't know. It made me appreciate my mom, even though that's part of the reason my mom always felt really kind of shitty later on in life. Like I just moved us around a lot. It's like, yeah, but it was kind of fun. We always had fun. It was exciting moving into a new place and getting to know new people. But I do have a sense. I do love to travel, and I like to. My wife would laugh. My wife Allison would laugh hearing that, because she's always trying to. She's like, we should go, travel and go, But I'm not like a vacation guy. I like to travel with meaning. You know what I mean? Like I like to have a work to do when I get to someplace. So. But yeah, I loved it right from the beginning, and I took to it. I felt like I was just sort of. I was ready to travel and get out there and just not have too many. I mean, back, we're talking like 81, 82, when we really first started to hit the road a lot. There was everybody was stupid. Everybody, all the band people that we knew, the people that were helping to book shows, nobody had. I mean, some people didn't even have driver's licenses, or I remember I had a van and it wasn't registered. They didn't have like current tags or whatever. And we would just do stupid shit like that. We'd just go to LA and hope for the best, hope we didn't get pulled over, and it was all just really fun. And it felt like we were doing something really big and important, at least for us. I loved that. I loved all of it. Even the really rough stuff, like, just staying at houses with sketchy people and having to worry about, your equipment getting stolen, or, crazy weird shows where there was violence going on. All of it was just contributed to like getting a better sense of society and humanity as a whole, I guess, in some way. I don't know how, but it did, so yeah. I like it. I still think it's I still sort of romanticize a little bit about it, and I should know better, because I know how lame and hard it can be, especially when I just turned 60. So it's like the idea of being, 60 in a van. I'm sure I could do it really well, and I have it down, but I'm like, I don't know. There's something kind of crazy about that. It's like,
yeah. Oh no, for sure. Yeah. I mean, because touring is, means a lot of different things to a lot of different people, and your relationship can ebb and flow over time. But
right.
Just that notion of what you're talking about, of the idea that, like, yes, this sort of general pursuit of, new experiences is something I enjoy. And that's at the core of it, why people kind of get out there and, travel and tour and stuff.
Absolutely.
Like that.
So. Yeah.
It kind of hitting on the notion that, once you guys started to, develop a following, and like the idea of, working with other record labels besides like BYO, and kind of, spread your wings a little bit, and the business implications of like, oh my gosh, like, we got paid $500 to play a show or whatever. Like, just these things that like were not ever in your scope of understanding. How did that kind of hit you as you started to try to like navigate the professional side of being, the music business, as it were? Was that something that you just try to keep it at an arm's length, or did you actually, kind of enjoy that process?
It's so different now, of course. And now now the business kind of, now there's a real keen sense of like being part of some industry or some business. Back then, that did not exist. Like, you could, even if you were signed to a record label, I mean, we didn't even hire an attorney until probably 15 years after we'd already been a band. Our first couple of deals with BYO, or it was mostly handshake stuff. We had an agreement, but we didn't really know how to read it, and we didn't want to. We almost felt like, by bringing an attorney into the situation, even though everybody and their mother, who was smart and who were our friends, said, "Get a lawyer, get a lawyer, get a lawyer." We felt like it was almost like just like sacrilege. Like, it was just awful to even like. This is about community, man. No, we're not. None of us are here to hurt each other, And I was that naive, and I was that kind of foolish to think that was really what we were kind of dealing with, and I, because I wanted that to be the reality, you know. But yeah, later on we realized, we started to understand, like, oh, you know, there's interest in the band. People are making money off the band. We're making money off the band. I guess we really should start thinking being a little smarter about it, whatever. And, you know, we finally got a booking agent and all that stuff. But yeah, I mean, it's just like, it's funny. I go through, I've been trying to kind of go back and find, I'd like do almost like a listing of all the shows we've ever played. And for the first 5 years I had that in a book, and I ended up losing it. But I'm kind of going back, and there's various things online. You can look up different bands, like their concert lists or whatever. And it's funny to see, like, you'll see Black Flag would play like the Mabuhay Gardens in San Francisco, sometimes twice a month, but definitely once a month, you know. Nowadays, that like no band would go and play the same market. You know, you wouldn't even call it a market. You know, they'd never go play the same city like twice a year. You know what I mean? Like, it's just, there'd be some kind of clause, some contract that said, you know, radius clause or some crazy thing. So it's all really different. And I admit, I sort of don't understand how it's done now. Like, if I didn't have a booking agent, I really wouldn't understand. In my mind, it's still like, hey, you know, how about we let's do a bunch of shows 3 months from now? It was like, nobody books 3 months. You know, like now everybody's booking already. Like, people are already booking in 2020, you know, 22 or whatever. And so I still have that mentality where it's just like, I appreciate the underground aspects of it, and the sort of the spontaneous of like, hey, you guys want to do a show? Yeah, of course we want to do a show. Can you pay us anything? Yeah, we can. You know, we'll give you $50 and we'll feed you. Okay, sounds good. You know, those days are over, and it's kind of I kind of hate that they are. I mean, on my own level, and again, as a performer, whatever. I still try and keep that open. Like, I'm always telling Margie, my booking agent, I'm like, you know, I'm happy that you can get me money playing at a club, and that's probably what's going to bankroll this whole thing. But I still want to be able to play at some kid's basement, or play at a record store, or play at a clothing, you know, like a thrift store. I like doing that kind of stuff, and I don't really care that it's nice to make money, but it's not the thing that's going to stop me from playing the show if I don't make money, you know. And that's not really a smart way to do things, but I can't I can't quite shake that. So, you know, I just try to I try to gauge, you know. But yeah, it's all different thing now, and you know, we're getting, especially now with this the crew reissue thing going, everybody's like, so are you guys going to tour again? And it's like, nah, you know, we pretty much, when we said we broke up, we broke up, you know. I mean, I never say never. I'm not that stupid, but I also am like, you know, we're all, you know, older and not as in shape as we'd like to be. And there's, if the four of us were like, hey, what do you think? Want to do a show? Want to do 2 shows? If everybody was into it, I'd do it in a heartbeat. But yeah, it would, the whole dynamic now, we just got a crazy offer to open a show for a really big name band. And the money was so insane. And my first thought was like, I just want to say yes, because we could all use that money. But then my other thought is like, we never took a show based off because of money. And there's no reason now that we're sort of retired to start doing that now. And so, yeah, it's a crazy, you know, you start thinking about that stuff, and you kind of wish that you didn't have those. You don't want it to pop up in your head, especially like at this stage, you know, it's just.
Yeah, right. Well, and plus it's like that idea, like, you know, when you do get to the point of, it's like, oh yeah, do you want to play, you know, with the Foo Fighters at Wembley Stadium? And it's like, that first of all, that would never even occur to me. And like, would that even, you know, you kind of distill it like, okay, the money's great, but then like, would that actually be fun? Like, would any, exactly. You know, and you have to parse through, like, not only, you know, does the financial gain, like, that's cool, but like, are all these other things in line? And if they don't feel right, then yeah, I can understand why you would say no, even if it's like, you know, a stupid offer or whatever.
Yeah, no, that's exactly right. And that's kind of, you know, yeah, exactly. Like, and you do, you know, you do sort of, I don't know. I mean, I also, you know, over the years, we were also like, you know, I remember we got offered to do the Warped Tour, and we were always talking shit about the Warped Tour. You know, it was just the thing to do. And we had friends that went on it and had weird experiences. And we were always like, you know, who needs a Warped Tour? And then we got asked to do it, you know, and it was like you know, we could play, you know, as many dates as we wanted. You know, they were going to put us on the main stage. They would put us on the side stage. And we're going to be all over the place. And so the first thing we did is like, well, let's see what the rest of the lineup looks like. Let's see if there's going to be friends that are going to be playing. If we know that we've got friends that are on the thing, on the tour, then at least we know that part of it will be fun. So and then it was like, finally we said yes, because it was like, there's like 5 friends of ours that are playing on the bill. We get to share a bus with H2O. We're all buddies. We don't have to drive ourselves. We don't even have to feed ourselves. Like bands eat amazingly well on the Warped Tour. And we probably won't make the money that we'd make if we were headlining our own club date, every night, but it'll be an experience that if we do it and it ends up being bad, then we can say, see, we knew all along it was going to be a lame situation, or, hey, it turned out to be better than we thought it was going to be, so it was like, we've made these decisions where we get asked to play something and we've turned things down, plenty of things down, but it's also like, we've never turned down, like in the situation, like, hey, the Foo Fighters invited you. I'd go, hey, the Foo Fighters are fine. I don't have any problems with that. But then I would start thinking like, and Dave Grohl seems like a nice guy. He's been really supportive of bands of our ilk or whatever. But then I'd start thinking like, okay, shit, do we have to get up early to go have a sound check at like noon? Do we have to drive how do we get access into the stadium? I'd be thinking of all of this stuff.
Right.
And I'd be like, that's where I'd be like, nope, forget it. I'm out. It's like,
totally. Like this doesn't feel right.
Yeah.
The holidays are descending upon us. Everyone is running around like crazy people trying to get their shopping done. Let me just solve that problem for you. No one is ever going to say no to this gift. And this gift is the Raycon wireless earbuds, headphones, or speakers. I love all of these products unequivocally. I use them every single day. And what makes them even cooler? They have 54 hours of battery life. They have a very comfortable fit. They will not fall out. I love them so much. They also have these rad holiday bundles. My personal favorite is the Audio Lover, which includes the everyday earbuds and the everyday headphones. So please, right now, go to buyraycon.com/Ray and use the code EARLYBF to get 20% off site-wide. That's 20% off of any Raycon product, which seriously never happens. Or you can save even bigger and get 30% off of Raycon's exclusive holiday bundles. That Audio Lover thing I was telling you about, do that. That's code EARLYBF at buyraycon.com/Ray for 20% off your Raycon purchase. Buyraycon.com/Ray and solve all of your holiday gift giving problems for your dad, your mom, your brother, sister. I don't care who, put it in their stocking. They will love you. Buyraycon.com/Ray, code EARLYBF. I love dogs so much. That's why I'm incredibly excited to welcome Embark on as a sponsor. They are a dog DNA testing kit, and what makes them cool is they scan for 215 genetic health risks across 350 breeds. And I want to give you $60 off and free shipping. So go to embarkvet.com, use the promo code RAY, and it unlocks that offer. And it also unlocks so many cool things that you can find out about your pup. And it's super easy. You get a little test tube with a Q-tip, you put it in the pup's mouth, send it back to Embark. They email you all of these results. It's very fast, easy, and I love doing it. 72% of pup parents are puzzled when it comes to their dog's breed. It's time to end these guessing games. This holiday season, give the dog lover in your life something they won't expect, the chance to decode their dog. It's the perfect time to shop for an Embark dog DNA test. Right now, Embark has a limited time offer on their breed and health kit and purebred kit for listeners of this show. Go to embarkvet.com to get free shipping and save $60 with promo code RAY. Visit embarkvet.com and use promo code RAY to save $60 today. Do it for your pup.
There definitely comes a time, especially because, punk rock and hardcore in general is obviously a youth-based culture. And, that notion of, quote unquote, aging gracefully within the context of punk and hardcore, like, that means different things to different people.
Right.
And, how, you are still clearly prolific in regards to all the music and art that you put out, but how, I guess, how do you subvert the idea of like being that, whatever, bitter old man on the porch being like, oh man, like punk and hardcore used to be so great 15 years ago or whatever, and I'm sure that is a thought that crosses your mind, but do you, or maybe you don't even think about that? How does that kind of, I guess, ping pong around your brain?
I struggle with it probably every day. If I'm online, if I'm on social media and I see a mention of something, or I see someone telling a story that I sort of relate to, or I can vouch for, or whatever, I always have an opinion, and I always have to fight chiming in, because I realize that you can be just that sort of grouchy old know-it-all that everybody is just there's a reason for that, hashtag okay boomer, there's a reason for that hashtag, and I understand it. I totally get it. And I really do. I try as best I can to not be that old guy. And I fail, because I still have people go, Kev, I love your post, man. You're such a grouchy old man. And I'm like, God, I didn't think I was even being grouchy in that post. I thought I was being like, I thought I was being kind of funny and cute, and and that's the other thing too, is like there's a misunderstanding of that. But I'm not bitter. I don't feel bitter. Like I have more people. It's always loving friends, or people that really grew up with 7 Seconds and still profoundly love the band. They're the ones that always plant it in my head that like we never got the attention that we deserved. And I won't even think about it until someone says, man, it just kills me that you guys, there was a list of top 20 and you guys aren't on it, or and I'm like, wow, I wasn't even thinking about this, but now you got me thinking about it. Should I be pissed? Should I
care? Right.
Yeah. I had this conversation with Ian MacKay not long ago, and I just said, whenever we talk, it's always we always inevitably will get around to this, something like this subject. And he said, yeah, he goes, are you kidding? You guys kind of like lived it in, I'm paraphrasing, but he's like, you guys lived the dream. You lived a dream that, you had this little dream, you got to travel all around the world, you made a little money, you got to, I'm like, yeah, that's it. That's that in my mind, that's what I carry around with me most of the time, So, yeah, I it's important for me to not be that old, boring, grouchy guy. And sometimes I think it comes out. I'll notice it lyrically in the last few 7 Seconds records, where I'm probably just having this internal discussion in my my own brain based on like a conversation I had with somebody or something I saw on social media, and then I'll sort of opine on it openly, and then all of a sudden it becomes a song, and I realize, wow, that really could just be another, you suck, you suck and I don't kind of thing that the hardcore is kind of, at least early hardcore was always kind of known for, was we were always like pointing fingers and telling the world what's wrong, but we really weren't necessarily suggesting a solution, and so, yeah, that's it. I think it creeps up. I don't think you can be 60 and not have it, creep up a little bit, but I think the key is to just try to keep yourself in check. And anybody that I know that's close to my age from this sort of world, it kind of agrees. We're like, we still want to be somehow like I still want to be inspirational, if at all possible, to younger people. Like, I don't want people look at me and go, oh, if that's what I got to look forward to, forget it. Like, I'd rather people. I also get this thing a lot where people go, oh, you're such a positive guy. You just, everything you say is so positive and encouraging. And I'm like, you really don't know me. Like, that's not who I am. But it's important for me to try to be, because I know that bands who said something or said something in a song, the way the Clash is a great example. The Clash said so many things lyrically, and just hearing their music and the energy and the way they put everything together just was always encouraging to me. It was always like, hey, young people, if I can do this, you can do this, and I think it's important. I think it's important to do if that's your thing. Like, I think it's, if you can step up and still, I don't know. I don't know what I'm trying to say.
No, I get the idea, because there definitely is a fine line between, like, I think the most, bummed out people get is when it's always talking about the previous thing being so much better than the current thing. Right. And like, I think that's where you kind of, lose the thread. And that's when people become old and jaded, where it's like, oh yeah, obviously hardcore died when Negative Approach broke up or whatever. It's just like, what, who, that's what you say. Like, that's your fault, and that's not.
And I had to learn the hard way, because I would do that. I like somebody would be I remember in the 90s that would happen a lot, where somebody would be talking about how great, how great, or that's what it was. Like people would go, man, you guys had it made, you had a great scene. All the bands were good. And I'm like, yeah, but we had fucking everybody hated us. It was like we had, rednecks and cops and people in the military and our parents. And like everybody really hated what was going on. Like it wasn't easy to get on a bus and go somewhere, or it wasn't easy to ride your skateboard or ride your bike without getting harassed. But then I realized I'm doing that same thing. I'm just going, back in my day, we got the shit kicked out of us for walking to the post office or whatever. So yeah, it is one of those things where, again, it's just balance and, trying to find the balance of being, you don't want to underplay or you don't want to like dismiss what your own life experience and what you've gone through. But it's like, yeah, most young people really don't care really what your opinion is on what they're doing now. You know what I mean? Like I didn't,
Sure.
It's like, I didn't want to hear somebody that was 40, 50, 60 years old tell me that, well, you're kind of doing it wrong. Like it's just, even if they are, there's no point to it. It's just
totally right. Yeah. Because you're like, well, let me figure that out, old man.
Yeah, exactly. And that's what I said. I said the same thing. Like, well, I don't need you to tell me how to do this, And the truth is I probably did need that, but I needed to learn. I needed to fall on my own face 25,000 times, I just some people just need to go through that. They don't need to use your experience to teach them, and if they do, they'll let you know. If they want advice or they ask you something, try and be accessible, try and be gracious and humble, and speak from your heart. And I think you're on the right path.
Yeah, absolutely. Two last things I want to hit on before I let you go was the, because music and your pursuit of it, is clearly hardwired in you. But there definitely is a, distinction between, like having to do it and then still caring about it. But I think, in my opinion, you definitely blend the two together appropriately, because, there are definitely, artists where it's just like, you don't care about this, but you have to, like, you're just doing this because, whatever. It's like performative or,
Like who? I'm kidding. I'm kidding. I'm just kidding.
No. I know, but I mean, you put me on the spot, so it's like I'm trying to think of an example, but like, yeah, I mean, nothing comes to my head. But and I know you're joking, but just that idea of a person having to live up to whatever expectation that like, it's like, oh, they are this person from this band or whatever. So like, I constantly need to be this person regardless of anything else that surrounds me. But like, you combine your artistic output with the fact that like, you still truly do care about it. And I guess in simplest of terms, like, why do you still care? I know that's a big question. Yeah.
Well, I think the one thing I think for us is that we over the years did pretty well, and we got some recognition. Like there have been times where I know that people were like, oh yeah, they were one of the bigger hardcore bands in the 80s or whatever. But I don't think we like, if I look at us compared to like, say, some of our, like, I don't know, Bad Religion, or I'm trying to think of really big bands that from that era, Descendants, bands that we played shows with, we kind of grew up with and came up from the same thing. We were really never like a name brand punk band. We did well. People, a lot of kids got into us and stayed into us. Some people dropped off for whatever reason, but we never had that. I never had a sense of ourselves as being like this band that was just so big that we were stuck to any. And that's one of the reasons I think we felt the freedom to just do whatever we wanted musically. In the 80s, we started to change things quite drastically, and it got us. We went from being the kind of sweethearts of the underground punk hardcore punk rock scene to being like, why do they sound like U2? Like, why are they doing this now? People took it personally even. And so I think because we just sort of always just did whatever the fuck we wanted, and maybe because we were like little hicks from Reno, even, I don't even know. I mean, I've considered this. Maybe we were just too dumb to know any better, and we didn't have a sense of like where we sat, status wise in all of it. So there was never a sense that we needed to live up. At least I feel like I never felt a sense of needing to live up to anything other than, when if we make it to your town and we make it to the venue, we will do everything we can to help you have fun, and we want to have fun with you. It's not, we don't want to just be entertainers for the night. We don't want you to just, here's the music, everybody, now go home, get our money. Like, let's just have a great fucking night together. Let's not fight. Let's not hurt each other. And then we'll move on, And that was kind of always the sort of quiet guarantee. Like, we're not going to I'm not trying to change your world. If you're inspired, if some things I've said resonate with you, that's awesome. I love it. And I'll never shit on that. But I also feel like, that, it was always just about fun and just appreciating the community that we're all part of at that moment. And whatever happens tomorrow happens tomorrow. Whatever happens when so-and-so come in town and play, that may be a whole different thing, and that's, and really it never changed for us. I don't think we ever had a sense of that changing, really. I think we always went, that's one of the reasons that people would say, what's it like being in a band for 35 years, and sometimes I think, oh yeah, that's right, we've been around that long. But I think, hey, we just had a 300-mile van ride together, and none of us, we still like each other, we still love each other, we still joke, and we still have fun hanging out at a Denny's or whatever. I don't know. I guess it feels pretty good as long as we don't suck on stage and we don't look like a bunch of boring old men. I think we're doing okay, and that's how it is. I mean, our last, the last couple of tours of 7 Seconds, prior to us calling it a day, we had phenomenal shows. We went on a U.S. tour. It did really well. There were a lot of young people coming to shows. I've seen videos since then, and we don't all look like a bunch of, just like stick in the mud. Like we look like we're digging it, and I remember going, wow, that was an amazing show. So, again, I can't really complain. And I don't mean to sound like I'm trying to live up to some posi core, guru guy, but I really do feel like we just, we did it until it just, we physically couldn't do it anymore for a number of reasons, both, physical and mental, emotional, but also just, the fun stayed intact the entire time, and I know tomorrow, if we were all feeling good and everybody was, in the right spirits and we went out and got on a stage, I know we'd have an amazing time. And I think the people who would be there to see us would have a great time as well. So
yeah,
there's that.
Well, and I really like that. Not only were you following the muse artistically, but then at the core of it, you're just like trying to keep it distilled down to the simplest components. And that is what, keeps yourself prolific and obviously the band's health at the forefront rather than, chasing, commercial stardom or whatever. Like you said, it's like once you guys decided to, be the band that you were and not just continually, write the same record over and over, that could have led you down the road of not releasing music ever again.
Right, for sure. And like you mentioned earlier, and I joked about it, but we all have seen the bands that have been around just a little too long, and they look miserable, and they're, if you've traveled with a band or played shows with a band and you see how things are backstage or, outside, before the show or after the show, you're just going, why are you still doing this? Like, it can't be the money. Like, if we're all both, sharing a stage in a club that holds 600 people, none of us are making so much money that the money is why we do this, So I just don't. I remember going and seeing a couple bands on big outdoors, punk bands on big outdoor stages, and I remember whispering to my wife saying, like, please, I know you love me and you never want to hurt my feelings, but if you ever see me looking that miserable and completely disconnected from everything that's around me at that moment, whatever it takes, do what you can to tell me, like I don't want
my legs, right?
something like I don't, that was always my biggest, I don't know if it was a fear, but I always just thought, I just don't ever want to look that uninterested and disconnected. And meanwhile, the band, I've seen a couple bands like that, they're raking it in, they're making so much money. And I'm like, I guess that's it. I guess at that point you're like, well, we don't have to struggle. We're traveling around on a nice fancy bus, or we're flying to and from gigs. I guess, you have to come to your own you have to do your own inventory and figure out that that's what it's about, you know. And I'm not going to judge if that's what you're into and everybody's into it. That's what it is, you know. But yeah, on our personal little thing, we were just always like we always. I always tried to bring it up every once in a while without trying to be the bummer of the band. And I just said, like, you know, are you sure you're having fun? Even before every tour, I'd be like, are you sure you're into this? Like, I don't want this to be a thing you feel like you have to do it because you're going to make more money in 2 weeks doing this than you would at your shitty job at home. You know, like, please tell me now if that's the deal, because I don't want to do this. And
right.
You know, I think we all really would think long and hard about it and just say, all right, we're in. This is why we're doing it. And it was all good,
yeah.
You know.
Yeah, no, for sure. And the last thing was, you know, on that tip with the fact that, you know, the re-release of The Crew and everything like that, you know, it's exciting for a multitude of reasons. One, the fact that this music and could live on, you know, digitally for, you know, children to consume in the year's future.
Right.
And then also just, you know, appropriately documenting, you know, the vinyl re-release and having, you know, so many different elements that make it, you know, ultimately meaningful for you and then meaningful for people that this record resonates with. Did you just feel like because, you know, you were able to find Joe and Trust Records, like it was just kind of like right place, right time scenario, or had this idea been kind of like percolating for a while? It was just a matter of, you know, finding the appropriate vehicle for it.
We didn't find Joe and Trust. They found us, and I actually have known Joe for years, and I love him. He's a friend and whatever. We're at a point now where a lot of our records are sort of hitting this mark, you know, to where there's it's a weird thing, because my biggest beef with a lot of our records still is that they're just unavailable. You can't find them on physical form. You can't find them on social media. They're not being streamed. And I might not even think about it, except that I still am plugged in. So I'm the only one in the band really that stays plugged into the social media thing. So I'm always reading stuff, and I'm always getting emails and messages saying, how come I can't find blah, blah, blah on Spotify or whatever? And I when I realize I have no answer, I don't even know, like, I'm so disconnected from like past record label obligations and publishing stuff and all this stuff, that it starts to get, it's kind of like when you haven't worked out and you gain a bunch of weight and you're like, man, I just don't even know where to begin. Like, I feel like I might as well just eat another, you know, something, because it's a terrible analogy, but I just, you get stuck in your own head of what to do. And so I even had lawyers contacting me saying, hey, you know, the rights to this album it can be reverted back to you. If you get them, you can do whatever you want with it. You can release it yourself, or you can have somebody else. So that stuff was kind of starting to come up, and we were very unhappy with the fact that all the stuff on BYO was unavailable on Spotify. I know Spotify's evil and all this other shit, but ultimately, and I've talked to a number of my peers in the scene that I love and respect a lot. Ultimately, we all just want our music, the music that we worked really hard to make and get out and keep out and promote. We just want it available, especially at this stage in our lives, because, you know, there are younger people that are getting into this music all the time, and if they don't have access to it, you know, in the ways that kids now get access to it, it's kind of it's defeating the whole thing. Like, why does a record even exist if you're not gonna, you know? So I was really happy initially when I talked to Joe, when they approached us. I was kind of standoffish, and I just said, dude, I got to admit, I'm so fed up with just the record label shit and just this and that and all the talk. And I'm like, you know, give me an idea what you guys are thinking about, and I'll talk to the guys about it. And Joe just really made a very compelling, like, he just laid it out. He said, look, we're fans first and foremost. You know, we want to do right by these records, and we believe we can do it. And we wouldn't want to do anything that you guys would be bummed out. You guys will be involved in every aspect of it. If you don't want to be involved at all, that's fine too. And everything was we just had these great discussions, and I talked to him, you know, I talked to Joe more than anybody really. And I thought, well, and they technically they picked up the rights to the BYO records, so they can release this stuff legally and just do it, and not even consult us. They'd have to pay us, you know, but in terms of royalties and stuff, but they could just do it. You know, they didn't have to, you know, make sure that we felt comfortable and good about this whole thing. But at every turn, there's just been, I just said, look, I'm a hands-on guy. I always have been. And even if I've made mistakes, they're my mistakes on behalf of the band. The band trusts me enough to let me do it. So, if you want there to be goodwill between us, then just guarantee me that you're not going to do underhanded shit in the name of marketing. And even if you think it's a good idea, at least run it by us first, because nobody knows this band better than us and how we want to be represented. And as much as I know that we all want the crew to be sold to, the millions of youth out there, the reality is that, my thing always is like, look, the people that want the crew probably have the crew, but it's this whole new life now. There's it's been remastered, which is something I wanted to do forever. It's back to its original form, back to the original colors, which there was always a dispute about that. We never wanted it to be anything but the black, white, and red. And these guys have just committed. They said, look, we're down. Let's do it. Tell us what you want. We'll work with you on it and stuff. And so, here we are in 2021. I seriously, I kind of stopped doing interviews because I just got kind of tired of, I wasn't really promoting anything. And I sort of felt like, what am I talking about? I'm talking about stuff that happened 40 years ago. But because of all this stuff, I told them, I said, look, if you need, me to do interviews or press stuff, I'm in. I'm not excited. And I'm not a big fan of that stuff anymore. But I want to, I think it's worth it. And I think the record is, I think the record's a great record. And I think that, this new re-release deserves a shot, deserves a little exposure and stuff. So yeah. I'm pretty excited about it. And I feel really good about the situation with Trust. I think they've got all the right ideas, and it's kind of cool that they did the Circle Jerks record. We're buddies with the Circle Jerks, and been friends with Keith forever, and I'm really happy that we got to do something kind of on the same label, So
totally,
yeah. There's like it's at this point, and I'll shut up. At this point, really, it's all about having. Before I die, and I don't think that's going to happen anytime soon, I would just love to know that all of our music is available to whoever wants it. Like, I don't care if it's on free or pay, whatever. I just want everything that we've ever done to be available in some form or fashion. And I'll be very, very happy about that. And hey, look, if it sells and I keel over, at least I know my family will benefit from, like my wife will. So that's kind of, that's been our attitude from the beginning of this whole thing. And it's been really, really cool so far. I'm really quite pleased with how it's turned out so far.
Yeah, no, it's awesome. And it does, like you said, it just gives the opportunity for people, because the scene is so mature now. It's going on, 40 plus years.
I know
that you have to have the ability to access music in whatever delivery mechanism is important to that particular generation. And like, sure. if it's just not there, then it's just not there. And then that gets like lost to time. And that's something that shouldn't happen with, classic records like The Crew and a lot of other things that you have done. So,
well, yeah. And it's especially if you're going like, well, it's not available because, so-and-so rips bands off. And it's like, look, I'm not trying to, I don't want to give into the like, oh, well, that's how it is. But that's kind of how it's been forever. Like we've all gotten dicked around by distributors and record labels and stuff. So it's like, well, at this point, let's just make sure the music's out there. And if you want to figure out a better way to get your cut of it, that's up to you. But let's just keep the music out there. We didn't write it and record it and tour behind it just to have it sit quietly somewhere. It just doesn't make sense to us. It's counter what we've worked our butts off all of these years to try and do, so.
Yep. Oh no, for sure. I totally agree. Well, Kevin, thank you for letting me ping pong around your life and your musical life and all that stuff. I just appreciate you letting me to pick your brain. So
yeah,
thank you.
It was really fun, Ray. I appreciate it.
Okay, I am so hyped that interview happened. Thank you very much to Bailey, his publicist. Thank you very much to Joe at Trust Records and Kevin for coming on the show and just being so, just a great dude. Like, you can tell he still cares about music. He still cares about all the things that he is doing currently, which a quick Google will trip you into his whole awesome. He's been doing live streams for a while, obviously, because there's no way to get out there and play shows. But yeah, 7 seconds. This is just a really, really important conversation for me. So love that. And next week, we have Mike Schleibaum. who's from Darkest Hour and Be Well and Battery and a ton of other bands. But I've known Mike for a long time. He actually gave me one of my first sort of real full-fledged tour experience with my band Taken. We went out with Darkest Hour for, it was maybe 3 to 4 weeks. And I learned a lot from him, just kind of observing how this band that was, more professional than we for sure were. And Mike is just an incredible guy. So had to have him on the show because he has his own custom signature guitar. There's a lot of fun stuff that we dive into. So that is what's happening next week. And until then, please be safe, everybody.
Tired of long waits and rushed care at the ER and urgent care clinic? Next time, stay home and let Dispatch Health bring the power of the hospital to you.
I call Dispatch Health. A care team of medical professionals actually come to your house.
They're the same caliber of people that you would see if you were at a hospital or an urgent care.
Dispatch Health can treat most non-life-threatening emergencies.
They can do the x-rays, they can do stitches.
Urinary tract infections, blood test, urinalysis, ultrasound.
It's almost everything that they can do at the ER.
You never feel rushed. They're there for you and only you.
I felt like their only patient.
And it costs no more than a trip to urgent care because Dispatch Health is covered by most insurance, including Medicare. See if we serve your home at dispatchhealth.com.
Dispatch Health really went above and beyond.
It's wonderful to have care come to your home.
House calls are back, and they're better than ever. Learn more at dispatchhealth.com.
Are you crime curious? iHeartPodcasts has gathered the best true crime all in one podcast feed. iHeart True Crime Plus. It's packed with podcasts about unsolved murders, missing persons, organized crime, and more. So there's always something good to binge and share. iHeart True Crime Plus subscribers also enjoy ad-free listening, early access to select episodes, and exclusive bonus content. Subscribe to iHeart True Crime Plus today, exclusively on Apple Podcasts.
The world of chocolate has been turned upside down.
A very unusual situation.
You saw the stacks of cash in our office.
Chocolate comes from the cacao tree, and recently, varieties of cacao thought to have been lost centuries ago were rediscovered in the Amazon.
There is no chocolate on Earth like this.
Now some chocolate makers are racing deep into the jungle to find the next game-changing chocolate, and I'm coming along.
Okay, that was a very large crocodile.
Listen to Obsessions, Wild Chocolate on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.